In the late 1900s, believing in conspiracies helped band people together, turning against the government they no longer trusted.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Why you lie?
Conspiracy theorists have pointed out that when the moon landing was first shown on live television, the flag was clearly fluttering. Now, the problem with this is that there's no air in the moon's atmosphere, and therefore no wind to cause the flag to blow. Although this theory was very convincing, countless explanations have been put out there to explain this phenomenon. NASA explains that this flag had been kept in a thin tube, and the ripple effect was caused by it being taken out before it was planted. Other explanations are that the ripples were caused by the reaction force of the astronauts touching the pole, which is shown to shake in the video footage. After photographs of the moon landing were released, theorists were quick to notice a mysterious object in the reflection of an astronaut's helmet. Many think this object is an overhead spotlight hanging, typically found in film studios. What this reflection may be is questionable due to the poor quality of the photograph, so the object still remains totally unexplained. Another big argument that the moon landing is a hoax is the lack of stars in any photographic or video evidence. There are no clouds on the moon, so the stars should be totally visible and significantly brighter than what we would see through the filter of Earth's atmosphere. NASA claims that the poor image quality is to blame for this, but some photographs are high quality and still no stars can be seen. The Van Allen radiation belt is held in place by Earth's magnetic field and stays in the same place. The Apollo mission to the moon marked the first ever attempts to transport living humans through the belt. Conspiracy theorists believe that the sheer levels of radiation would have cooked the astronauts en route to the moon, despite the layers of aluminum coating the interior and exterior of the spaceship. NASA states that the short amount of time it took the astronauts to travel through the belt meant they only received a very small dose of radiation. On the moon, there is only one source of light, which is the sun. This should cause the shadows on the moon to run parallel to each other, but in the pictures and videos shown, the shadows clearly fall in different directions, drawing the conclusion that there was more than one light source on the moon, which isn't possible. Most people argue that the moon has a very uneven surface, leading to weird shadows. On September 11, 2001, 19 terrorists associated with Al-Qaeda hijacked 4 passenger planes to carry out suicide attacks against the United States. 2 of the planes were flown into the Twin Towers in New York City, killing and trapping hundreds of people. 1 plane crashed into the Pentagon while the passengers regained control of the last plane and crashed it into a field. At the time, George Bush was in an elementary school in Florida. He saw the first plane crash on television and reportedly thought it was a mistake. Conspiracy theorists ask, how could he have seen the first plane crash on TV, since it wasn't aired until much later? How did Bush know about 9/11 so early? In Florida, George was reading My Pet Goat to a group of children. A government official whispered something in his ear, reportedly saying that the second plane had crashed into the other tower. He kept reading and did not ask for any more details for at least 8 minutes and was not removed from this publicized building for another half hour. Was the Secret Service just incompetent, or did they know that the president was not included in the attack? Bush's slow reaction to 9/11 led conspiracy theorists to believe that he was somehow involved with it. Popular theory is that jet fuel cannot melt through steel beams. This leads to the assumption that the Twin Towers were already wired with explosives before the attack. This leads conspiracy theorists to believe that the government knew about 9/11 before the attack, or they had something to do with the attack itself. There are a lot of theories that bounce around about 9/11, but not a lot of hard evidence to back them up. On August 5th, in 1962, movie star Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her home, laying face down, naked, with her hands by her side. Doctors concluded that Monroe had overdosed on sedative drugs, possibly to commit suicide. Conspiracy theorists and fans of Marilyn Monroe do not believe this. Many people believe that Marilyn Monroe was forced to take these sedative drugs against her will for a few reasons. A few strange things about Monroe's death is that it took her housekeeper a very long time to call in her death. Also, an ambulance was called but then turned away. The position of her body was described as too perfect and too clean, almost as if it were set up. So conspiracy theorists ask, what really happened to Marilyn Monroe? In June of 1964, author Frank A. Capel published the first book that expressed skepticism about Marilyn's death. This book was called The Strange Death of Marilyn Monroe. Frank argued that both Marilyn and Robert F. Kennedy were communists, and that Marilyn was ultimately the victim of a vast communist conspiracy. According to Frank, many suicides, heart attacks, and accidental deaths are in reality murders ordered by the Communist Party. Another theory that circulated in the FBI in 1964 was that Marilyn thought she could revive her career by making a suicide attempt. Peter Lawford, a friend of Marilyn and the brother-in-law of Robert F. Kennedy, heard about this plan from some of Marilyn's other friends. After telling Kennedy, who allegedly was having an affair with Marilyn and wanted to get rid of her, Lawford persuaded Dr. Ralph Greenson and Marilyn's housewife to help with the suicide attempt. Dr. Ralph Greenson prescribed a few bottles of sedative drugs to Marilyn. Then, Marilyn's housewife is said to have put them in her bedroom the night of her death. Believing that the pills could easily be pumped out of her stomach, Marilyn swallowed dozens of them to overdose. After she became unconscious, Marilyn's housewife called Greenson, and they waited until Marilyn had died to contact the police. None of these theories have been proven true, but conspiracists spread these theories, and a lot of people still believe them today.